Colin all cruisers. Hi everybody, my name is Colin and welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time at my channel, welcome. I hope that you would consider subscribing. If you enjoy this video, please do give me that big thumbs up at the bottom. It really does help to get my channel noticed, and that is my goal, is to spread as much information about cruising as possible. This video is going to be the first in a new series of Cruising 101. This is really going to be targeted at those first-time cruisers, people that are maybe considering cruising. But hey, if you're an experienced cruiser, stick along anyway, because I would love to hear your comments and your insight. If you've got anything at all that you'd like to share as well, please do so in the comments. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the different cabin types that are available to you when you are booking your cruise. So whether you go through a travel agent, a personal vacation planner, or if you book the cruise directly through their website, one of the things that you'll need to do is to pick your cabin type. So it's similar to choosing your room type in a hotel, only the cabin types will differ slightly from what you are used to in a hotel. With most of the cabins, there will be different room configurations that are available to you. A kind of standard approach for all cabins is the main two beds can be configured as twin beds, or they can be pushed together and used as a king bed. A couple of other things that you might find is that the sofa may pull into a sofa bed. That may be a single, it may be a double sofa bed that could sleep two, perhaps two children. And then another type of bed that you might see is a Pullman bed, which is usually sort of in the roof or in the wall that kind of pulls down and is propped up with a ladder. So kind of a bit like a bunk bed. These are typically a little smaller, so they're much more suited to children or people of a shorter stature. Another thing to consider when booking your cabin is if you want a connecting cabin as well. So a connecting cabin, similar to a hotel, will have a door in the cabin that connects to the cabin next door. If you are looking for a connecting cabin, if you're booking online yourself, you can typically see that it'll be marked with an indicator. If you're going through a PVP or a travel agent, just be sure to ask for that. Tell them that's your preference for connecting cabins. What is usually the most cost-effective and cheapest option is going to be your interior cabin. So what is an interior cabin? Well, an interior cabin is one that's usually on the inside of the ship. It typically does not have any windows or portholes, so it doesn't receive any natural light. There are some exceptions to that. There are some older ships that do actually have small portholes in some of the interior cabins, not all of them, maybe just a select handful of them. And there are some older ships as well that might actually have a full-size window with a very, very heavily obstructed view. I would say about 90% obstructed, where you're not getting a view of the ocean, you're getting a view of some of the mechanics of the ship. So these are still technically considered interior because they don't really offer any kind of view outside of the windows. Some newer ships are also offering something called the virtual balcony with the interior room. It's basically a big LCD screen that's kind of full-sized, and it's connected to some cameras that are actually looking outside and reflecting back on the screen exactly what's happening outside. So if it's raining outside, when you pull the curtain and look at your digital balcony, you're going to see the rain on there. So that's some of the nuances, some of the differences. But at a typical standard interior cabin, typically has no windows, no virtual balconies, and there are some pros and some cons that I'm going to share with you. Well, if you like a dark room to help you sleep, this is the room for you. Everybody that I know that's had an interior has said they had the best sleep of their life. It is so dark that it's like a sensory deprivation tank almost. You just are out cold. There's no light pollution, no light distractions. As I mentioned a bit earlier, the interior cabin is usually one of the cheaper cabin types, so it's much more cost effective, much more budget friendly. If you are trying to stretch your money a bit further on a cruise, the interior cabin is definitely a great choice to consider. In terms of some of the cons, I mentioned about the great sleep that you can have. From personal experience, that great sleep can sometimes be a problem because of the lack of clocks, the lack of natural light. It is very easy to oversleep in an interior cabin. I've heard stories, and I've actually done something similar myself, where we've slept right through and missed some morning activities, maybe even slept right through to the afternoon without realising. If you are someone like me that finds it quite difficult to wake up in the morning without natural light, then that could be a problem. So let's talk about ocean view cabins. So ocean view cabins are sometimes called exterior cabins. These cabin types do have slightly designations depending on the cruise line. So these cabin types typically have a large window or porthole that does look out into the ocean. These do have natural light. You'll have a curtain to pull over at night so that you can block out some light in the morning if you need to. And these are kind of more similar to what you would see in a standard hotel. Some of the caveats about ocean view rooms are Royal Caribbean and some other cruise lines, for example, have a different type of exterior room that actually look down into the promenade. So they do have windows, but they're still not receiving natural light. So that's something to consider when you're thinking about your cabin type, is yes, you might have a window in there, but you might not necessarily have that natural light coming in. However, because there is light in the promenade and it's lit up pretty much 24/7, you will be able to get light into the room via the window. It's just not a natural light source, and it is not going to be timed to the time of day, of course. When booking these kind of exterior view or any type of cabin with a window, you may hear of something called an obstructed view. That is where you may have part of a lifeboat or some other equipment that's going to be partially obscuring your view out. So it's just something to be aware of. I've had partially obstructed views before. Personally, they don't bother me. If you were looking to maybe take photos outside to the ocean, then yeah, that would be a bit annoying. But you're out at sea, there's a lot of salt water about, birds and all kinds of things, so to be honest, the glass is not usually the cleanest anyway. You're not going to get a clear shot out of there. I personally love an ocean view just to sit there and watch the water go by outside, and you know, if there's a partial obstruction, it doesn't usually bother me. But if it is something that you don't want, then it's just something to be aware of. So just keep an eye out. The partially obstructed views do tend to come in a little bit cheaper than an unobstructed view, of course. The next room type we're going to talk about is your balcony cabin. So not all ships even have balconies, but those that do, these are a very popular choice. The balcony cabin is basically the same as the other cabin types, except that you do have a balcony to go onto. Usually it's a modest sized balcony in most cases, with a couple of chairs and a table, so that you can perhaps sit out and have a morning coffee. Maybe you can eat your breakfast out there, or enjoy a meal in the evening, maybe have a glass of wine watching the sunset. It's really quite refreshing to go out, listen to the sounds of the ocean, and watch the water and the world go by. Of course, if you are interested in taking some sunset shots, the balcony is a great place to do that. You get some peace and quiet to snap away. And balconies, obviously, out of the three room types we've spoken about so far, are your more expensive room type. So something to consider, is a balcony worth it? For some people, it's a balcony or nothing. You know, they love to have the balcony, they have the routines. Like I say, maybe sitting out and enjoying your morning coffee on the balcony. For others, it does depend a lot on the itinerary and the length of the cruise. Not all ports of call that you go to are going to be pretty. You might be docked in a quite industrial area. So if you've got quite a lot of those stops on your itinerary, the balcony might not be worth it to you. That's a personal choice to make, but it's just something to consider when you're picking your room type. Quick note on balconies, again with Royal Caribbean and perhaps some other cruise lines out there, just check, not all balconies are going to be ocean facing. So with the Oasis class ships on Royal Caribbean, for example, they do have some balconies that look down into the boardwalk or promenade area, maybe a view over the Central Park. So not all balconies are going to face out into the ocean. Some of them might face in, and you are going to have other balconies directly across from you, so you're going to be able to see the other people sitting on their balcony. So there's a bit less privacy on these balcony types, but they are still enjoyable to a lot of people. And if you're super lucky, you might even be able to secure one of the balconies that overlooks the Aqua Theatre, where you can catch the Aqua show with guaranteed seating, and you're not going to have to fight the crowds to try and get that early seating there. So there are some pluses to having these balcony types. The next category that we're going to talk about, and this is our final category of room type, is going to be your suite. Now, there are so many subcategories within the suite category, kind of similar to what we saw with balconies, exteriors and interiors. That, you know, there's not just one suite type. The types of suites, the names of suites, they do vary from cruise line to cruise line and even ship to ship. Some of the key terms that you might hear are junior suite. So a junior suite is really, don't expect some lavish suite. It's basically a room that's going to be bigger than the balcony. You know, cabins on cruise ships are quite small compared to hotel rooms. A junior suite is probably going to feel more like a standard hotel room. You will see some other suite types. Oftentimes suites do come with a range of amenities. Now you might need to take one of the higher option of suite in order to enjoy some of these amenities, but you might find amenities such as priority boarding. You may even have an exclusive restaurant. There may be a concierge service. You could get invited to specific areas of the ships for cocktails and drinks. So there is some exclusivity that can be found in certain suite types. Now the suites typically come with a higher rate of gratuities as well. You typically have a wider team of people but working with a smaller group, so you're getting a bit more of a personal service with a suite compared to some of the other cabin categories. So for that reason the gratuities are elevated a little bit to make sure that those people do get compensated fairly for the extra work that they are doing. So suites definitely do give you the most room. However, suites can be very costly. Some cruise lines have suites that are just absolutely amazing, that are on 2 stories. They have multiple bedrooms, multiple bathrooms. I've even seen slides for the kids to get from one deck down to the other within the suite. Usually have private hot tubs with some of these larger suites. So you can really have an extravagant, private, personal and individual experience with some of these suites, but you will pay for that. They do come out to be costly compared to some of these other options. Great if you're doing a very special celebration or you just want to splash out some cash on the dream vacation. Definitely check out the suites, they could be worth it. What kind of cabin do I typically take when I'm on a cruise? I usually shoot for a balcony if I can. I love nothing more than enjoying my morning coffee out on the balcony and my pre-dinner glass of wine out on the balcony as well. Depending on the time of day, I love to watch the sunset if the ship is positioned correctly for me to do so from my balcony, and you'll often find me snapping some photos or recording some video footage of. Depending on the itinerary, you may be able to see some wildlife as well, such as dolphins. I've even seen whales from my balcony, sea lions and some sea birds, of course. And again, depending on the itinerary, in Alaska for example, if you do happen to take a trip through Glacier Bay, you can see the glaciers, you can see them calving right from there from your balcony without the need to go up on deck, which does typically get quite crowded on that particular port of call. So it does depend on the itinerary, it does depend on the duration, and it does depend on the price. I personally do not like the interior cabins. It is completely a personal choice. I struggle to wake up in the morning without natural light. I find myself extremely groggy, and I'm prone to sleeping in the interior. I know plenty of people that love the interior though because of the great night's sleep. They actually wake up feeling refreshed. So that is a personal choice to me. I'm by no means telling you not to take an interior. They are great value for money. I've never actually had a suite before. I find it the justification of the price a little too hard to swallow. You're often paying 3 to 5 times the price of the balcony. And in fact, I have booked a cruise on Princess next year, and I have booked my first ever suite because I actually got a sweet deal on that. So it's going to be a year or so before that video drops because I'm not taking that cruise till next July. But if you stick around, if you subscribe and you've hit that notification button, you'll be notified once I drop my review. So I hope you can wait that long. In the meantime, I do have some more cruises coming up, so you never know. Maybe I might bid for a sneaky upgrade on a Royal Caribbean, or maybe I might just splash out on an upgrade on a Carnival cruise. So there you go. There's the ins and outs of choosing your cabin type on your next cruise. There is no right or wrong answer. It depends on a lot of factors. So have a think about your itinerary. Have a think about the cost. Have a think about your personal preferences for what your expectations are on your cruise. And from there, you'll be able to settle on the cabin of your dreams. If you are a frequent cruiser, I would love to hear what you've got to say. What kind of cabins do you prefer? Why do you choose those ones? And where's your favourite part of the ship to be located? And if you are a first-time cruiser and you've got some questions for me, you'd like some more insight into your cabin choice, again, drop them down in the comments. I do keep an eye on the comments and try to answer every comment that comes in if I can. Again, if you did like this video, it would really help me out if you give me that big thumbs up and let me know that you enjoyed it. It tells me what kind of content you're enjoying, and I can keep putting out more content like this. And if you do enjoy my channel, please do consider subscribing. The more subscribers, the more support you can give me, the more grateful I will be. For now, you're guaranteed to get at least one video a week from me. So go ahead and subscribe. And what's more, if you turn on that notification, you'll actually be notified every time I do drop a new video, so you can be one of the first to see it. I hope you got a lot out of today's video. Take care and happy cruising.